Hey everybody, Brian Tro coming to you from Mossy Creek Fly Fishing with your fly fishing forecast. The date for today is Monday, October the 20th. Hope everybody's having a good week. There's a lot of great fishing opportunities and then some challenging ones. So let's get right to it and kind of break this week's forecast down a little bit. So got below freezing for our first time last week. Good chunk of the valley, certainly in the mountains. So that's had our first frost. Probably going to have another one this week. So we're starting to get into that time of year where things are changing a lot. Some of our high mountain lakes, like Switzer Reservoir and others, Elkhorn Lake, they're flipping. Okay, those lakes all have trout in them, and you can definitely find some trout up in the shallows and up at the headwaters of those. So those are some cool opportunities for fishing up in the mountains for trout when we've got some low water levels going on in our streams nearby. Speaking of low water, we're still pretty droughty, but had a good shot of rain yesterday that was a little bit unexpected. They were calling for a chance of showers, and a lot of the valley got over half an inch of rain yesterday, and got some much needed rain to our west in Allegheny. So that was good news. That's going to help some. Hopefully we can keep getting more of that. So that's the good news. Bad news is the leaves are falling like crazy, especially on these windy days. So that's going to continue to be a trouble for you trying to fish up in the mountains on small streams, and it's going to be hard on some of the bigger rivers like the Shenandoah. So if you're looking to musky fish or things like that, you better pick a really calm day because the leaves are just constantly coming down. Any bit of wind, any bit of rain, and of course those leaves concentrate right where you're trying to fish. So you're hooking one on every single cast with your fly. It can be a bit frustrating. So anyway, seasonal, what we got to deal with. Can make things a little bit tough on you sometimes when you're out there and you're hooking a leaf on every cast. So just something to think about. On top of that, we've got some of these changes with the weather. It's going to start to affect our bugs and the seasonality of some of our bugs. So we're losing mayflies, like our trichos are going to slowly peter out here over the next couple of weeks. Great hatch starts in May, runs sometimes all the way to Thanksgiving, but we get more and more really cold mornings happening, and those tricho swarms, which were in the tens of thousands, dwindle down to the hundreds and dwindle down to the tens and become less important. The fish are not going to go up from the bottom to eat a tricho. They eat them when there are thousands of them coming down the pipe. So that's definitely petering out. There's still a couple of caddis flying around, random caddis, one here, one there. Terrestrials are still relatively important on certain streams, like our spring creeks. I always say it takes several hard freezes before our crickets and our hoppers are kind of zapped for the year. So there's still terrestrials wandering the banks of some of our spring creeks, Mossy Creek, Buffalo Creek, Beaver Creek, the South River. These bugs are still around, and of course the fish have been eating on them for months now. So it takes the fish a little while to realize that they're no more. So dry droppers are still working on those places, or I should say hopper droppers, splatting those flies down and calling a fish up that wasn't already looking up can be a pretty effective way to fish. So the stocking truck has been out. So we listed kind of some of the delayed harvests that had already been open for the year. So those should be fishing pretty well. In addition to those, there's other places that we like to fish, like special regulations water. One of those would be the Jackson at Hidden Valley. So that just got stocked up for the fall. Great place to go if you haven't been up there. A little bit of a hike in, but beautiful water. And that's a little bit bigger stream compared to some of our other smaller trout waters. So even with some droughtier conditions, you ought to be able to get up there and find some habitat and find some riffles and some deeper pools to be able to fish and enjoy. So keep your eye on the stocking, daily stocking schedule. Certainly if we get some more rain, they'll start opening up more spots for the fall. So that's pretty much what's going on in the fall is rainbow trout fisheries, stock fisheries, the brook trout. If they haven't started spawning already, they're going to be spawning very soon. We don't have a lot of live reports from the mountain streams, primarily because they're so low, covered in leaves, low water, and fish that are about to spawn or have just started spawning. Okay, so we're going to kind of drop off some of the reports on these brook trout streams, other than to give you an update on some water levels maybe, as we move forward from here. Something else to note, people kind of forget about, is brown trout also spawn in the fall. We don't have a lot of brown trout fisheries in the state of Virginia, but they do exist. So, you know, if you're going up and fishing the Jackson tailwater, Smith tailwater, or even places like Mossy, this is things that you need to pay attention to. We just kind of very much focus on brook trout for the fall and forget that there's another species spawning. So a lot of people ask questions about Mossy Creek, like, hey, do they spawn? When do they spawn? Should I avoid fishing when they spawn? Without getting too long-winded, there's a couple simple answers. One, yes, fish do. Mature fish, browns in there, there's females and males, go and try and spawn. All right, there is gravel all up and down the creek in places, and they will find places to go and nest up. One nice thing about Mossy is you are not allowed to weight it, and so one of the biggest risks you pose as an angler to spawning fish is trampling nests, trampling eggs, interrupting a spawn, because you're not in that creek. That's really not an issue. It's not going to be an issue. And to be honest with you, when the fish do go to spawn in that creek, they just become really, really hard to catch. They're doing their own thing. So what happens a lot of times this time of year is, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, some anglers will see a drop off in their catches. There are some rainbow trout in the stream, which you can catch because they're spring spawners. And there are obviously immature fish, meaning non-sexually active fish. So some of your smaller browns, your 6, 8, 9 inchers, those guys will be feeding, and the few random rainbow trout will be feeding. It's a little bit of a moving target when those guys finish up. Usually sometime around the second week in November, all of a sudden they get done, they show back up. They're not as pretty as they were, they don't have all their colors, but man, they are hungry. And that can be one of the better times to fish that stream, is right mid-November there. Winter's not fully here yet, and they've just burned a lot of calories covering water and trying to spawn. So that's something to kind of keep in the back of your head for those of you that fish a few of the brown trout fisheries in the state. All right, warm water species, getting pretty tough. Our larger rivers are still quite low. The water temps have taken a big tumble. A lot of the smallmouth and largemouth in those streams have pushed off into their winter lies, which is where they will remain until March. The streams are fishable, but you really have to have a boat, or you have to really know a spot that you can access, know where these fish are. The window for them to feed is really tiny, okay? So getting out there at 7:30 in the morning and trying to catch bass is not super productive. You want to focus on your warmest 2 or 3 hours of the day, which are going to be, you know, the water temperatures kind of lag behind air temperatures. So you're looking at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they're not going to venture far from, not only are they in these deep pools, but they're in like one corner of them. And they're not going to swim too far away from that. They're also quite spooky. So it can be done. We have a lot of success catching smallmouth in the winter, but you have to be very targeted, very patient. You need to fish relatively large flies, and you know, just be prepared to catch less than you do in the summer. That's all right. Keeps you in touch with the river, keeps you out there, keeps you active. The musky fishing can be quite good this time of year too. The problem is the water's a little bit spooky right now, and there's a lot of leaves on the water. So as far as water temperatures, it's ideal. Musky are eating right now. All the suckers, the chubs, the fall fish, those fish are all corralling and moving back into those big deep pools, and the musky will follow them. So there will be many, many more mouths in there to cast a fly at. So anyway, to summarize, you've got delayed harvest streams that have been opened up. They should be fishing pretty well. You just need to be careful about spooking fish. Remember, the longer those fish are in there, the more they'll kind of adjust and adapt to their environment, and you have to start fishing lighter leaders, longer leaders, and smaller flies. Spring creeks are fishing pretty well, but the brown trout fisheries like Mossy may get a little tough over the next few weeks. All right, just as some fish come offline. There'll be more delayed harvests, more special reg water opening up as we get some rain. Keep your eye on the weather. Keep your eye on this weather roller coaster, okay? It definitely helps to fish on these southwest flow days, these little bit warmer days, warmer and rainy. Wind's been tough. Wind's been ripping. Yesterday it was blowing like 35 miles an hour. It seemed like every leaf in the whole state was coming down on us. So that can be a little bit of a challenge too. So anyway, got to navigate all these things, but there's a lot of pretty days out there that you can enjoy in the fall. Get out there and enjoy them. Also, real quick, a couple of upcoming events. There's the Legends of the Fly tournament this coming weekend in Virginia Beach. Check that out if you're not familiar with it. It's awesome. Even if you don't have time to register and get in this year, they have events in the spring and events in the fall. Mossy Creek always supports it. I'm always down there if I can be in Virginia Beach when they have events to enjoy that. November 8th, we have our fall open house. More details to come, but basically our fall open house is a little bit smaller than our spring, but it's just as much fun. We've got George Daniel coming to town. He's going to be giving presentations here and making himself available to all of our guests and customers. We always have chili, lots of nice warm food. We always have drinks. We have beers. Everything's marked down. We've got our guides here to help out and talk, help with your casting, etc. So if you need an excuse to get out, get down to the valley, Saturday, November 8th, come on down. You can start some early Christmas shopping and hang out with a bunch of really awesome fishy people and eat and drink some delicious foods for free. All right, that'll be it for now. Get those plants in and cover them up. There's more frost and freezes coming this week. And so head on in here, get some nice cold weather gear. All right, see y'all next week.